All right. Well, I am joined today by Carlos Rivera, co-owner of Blue and Gray Realty. Carlos, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on the show. How are you?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day.
Outstanding. It is indeed. We got some fall weather here. It looks like the leaves are getting ready to fall off the trees for us. So I guess I know what I'm going to be doing the next 5 weekends.
Yeah, I'm going to hire somebody.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a better idea too. So I'll need that guy's name and number. So, well, I wanted to start us off today by getting a little feel for kind of your story on how you got into real estate. So if you could kind of go over like, what were you doing before you got into this? Tell me where you grew up, all that good stuff.
Well, I grew up in California, right outside of San Francisco,
Okay.
and I joined the Army 1988, and best decision I ever made. And I stayed with it all the way through the year 2012.
Okay.
And I retired from the military. I'm very proud of that, and got to do a lot of great things, got to meet a lot of great people. And I also got to do a couple good jobs that actually helped me in real estate. So the last few years, I was dealing with acquisitions and contracting.
Very
Now,
nice.
Pentagon contracts and acquisitions at a huge scale, real estate, much smaller, but there's a lot of lingo and business, policies that were easily transferable. So it was easy to come over into the real estate and start dealing with contracts, start working with people. And so, but being in the military, you got to travel a lot, move from place to place. And one of the things that always attracted me was the markets. So the market around Fort Knox, Kentucky, and the market around Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and Fort Leavenworth, and even in other countries that we may have visited, really interested in it. And then as we came closer to the end of my career, my wife, Jennifer, got a real estate license, and she started working in the Northern Virginia area outside the Pentagon. And I was really ecstatic that we got a little extra income coming in, which is really great. And then Jennifer really took off, and she really was very confident what she was doing. She was definitely going after it hard and being a really good to her clients. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. Now, at first, when I retired, that was not the plan. And I sprung it on her like, hey, I'm going to join you to do real estate. And she was kind of like, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. But it's worked out. And we've been working together for the last 10 and a half years, I think it is.
Wow.
And it's been great. It definitely has changed our life in many positive ways. So we're very grateful for the opportunities that's presented that we've gotten.
Well, very nice. And we're going to touch on kind of what it is like working with your spouse coming up, because I think a lot of people in the real estate field, that is something that they think about often, and then they often think how bad an idea that would be. So the fact that you guys have been able to make it work for this long is a testament to both your marriage and then the partnership. So when you were in the Army and you're moving around, were you guys buying a house everywhere you went? Did you some duty stations? Yes, no? How'd that work?
Yeah, yes, we did. We bought a house out in the Fort Hood, Texas area, and we kept that for a few years. Even after we left the area, we rented it out, and we waited until the market was a little bit better, where we can make a little something off of it. And I mean, like just a few $1,000s. And then we also bought a house outside of Fort Bragg in North Carolina. And we held on to it for just like a year after we had left the area. So it kind of gives us a good sense of home, and we're not in somebody else's house or government housing. It really helped ground us as a family.
Now, when you first bought your house, when you were transitioning around the country, did you have some of the same concerns that I run into with military members, that when they're, hey, I'm only going to be here 3 years or whatever? And when you deal with that as an agent, what do you tell them?
For us, I mean, we didn't really look too far into the future. Like, what are we going to do with this house? We did think about that we could come back to the area and we'd move back into it. And with our clientele, we have a large military veteran, active, retired, prior service clientele, who also have multiple houses. The one thing that I think I zero in on is their VA eligibility. Like, how much of that eligibility do they use, and can they have any? Could they use here, or is there any left of it? I kind of zero in on that, make sure, start really peeling back on, can they do what they want to do? Can I help them to meet their intent?
And that's a really important point, especially for the new agents that are going to be listening to this, is that a lot of times, as I'm a former Marine myself, and
Mhm.
as you as an Army officer, we run into people who do not know that they can have more than one VA loan at a time. We
Right.
get lots
Yeah.
of different people that think they can only have a VA loan one time, and that's certainly not the case. So that's really important for the new agents listening to check on that eligibility. And by that meaning, okay, so you're moving from Fort Bragg and you're moving to our area here in Northern Virginia, and your
Hmm.
Fort Bragg house is 270 or whatever the number was. And that's going to give you up to 600,000 purchase power out here of remaining eligibility to do 100% financing. So before
Right.
they decide to rent, that's definitely something to check out. So, well, good deal. So what was it like growing up in California in the 80s there?
Now, it was a great place. We were really close to San Francisco, so we really got to enjoy this city. We were very close to also Lake Tahoe, just a few hours away, Napa
Nice.
Valley. It was really just a great place. I mean, our house, we didn't have air conditioning. The weather was always really pretty
Yep.
nice. If you want to cool down, open the window, turn on a fan, and that was pretty much it. So I really enjoyed it out there. And I think that's where I also started with a good work ethic by following my parents' footsteps. That you work hard and you got to play hard. So, and that's what they did. So they really got, it was a good childhood. Definitely no complaints.
Well, cool. And so you mentioned coming out of the Army, you mentioned the acquisitions and contracting that you had near the end. And what are
Yeah.
some of the other things that you really feel that you found to be beneficial from your previous career that you found to be
Mhm.
helpful in your real estate career?
Communication and organization, organizing me, making sure I have my calendar is straight, making sure I'm tracking who I need to talk to, when I need to talk to them, what do I need to talk to them about. Good customer service and presentation in the Pentagon. It's like I was a mouse amongst elephants, and so I always wanted to make sure that I presented myself well, and that I was speaking very clearly, and that I had my facts straight. And I think I owe that to my clients as a real estate agent, that I am the subject matter expert,
Yep.
right? And they are relying on me to do the right thing at the right time, good advice, good solutions, without making them feel I'm trying to shove them a square peg in a round hole.
Right.
I want them to make sure that they're in control and they feel like they're making a good decision for them and their family, because I'm not getting a loan. I'm not buying a house. They are. I'm really there to help them.
And one of the biggest things I run into over and over is that the top agents like yourself, it comes down to communication. And if you don't
Right.
do a good job communicating with the client, whether it's in a tactful manner, telling them things they don't want to know or they don't want to hear, or whether
Mhm.
it's just guiding them through the process to make sure it's smooth, that is one of the things that I see over and over of successful real estate agents, is the ability to communicate to the client what we're doing, how we're going to get to the closing table, and then take that stress off of them, that they know I can trust this person and they're going to do a good job. So,
No, you're absolutely right. Delivering bad news is never good. It's how you deliver it. And I always tie mine to like solutions. Like, here's
yes.
two solutions, here's two options. We've had previous experiences down this bumpy road. And I think that's where a lot of experience comes from, in collecting all those past trials and tribulations. And how did you get through it? And a lot of times you could apply it. You got to adjust, but I think the client really appreciates that type of honest communication.
Yep, and that's a really good point. And the ability to communicate to the client the important parts of the aspect of the transaction where they're going to feel comfortable with you. And like you said, you are the subject matter expert. So
Mhm.
when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what you would be doing if you were a first year agent out there, some of the things that you did in the beginning that you felt worked really well, and some of the things you probably would have passed on if you had it to do over. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about kind of what you'd be doing right now if you were a first year person.
Right. Great.
Welcome back. I'm here with Carlos Rivera with Blue and Gray Realty. So, Carlos, you told us a little bit about how you got into real estate, kind of what your career path was before that. So, let's talk about kind of that first year when you were a realtor. And so, tell me a little bit about your first year.
Well, I got to say, my first year, I wasn't by myself, right? I was, my wife, Jennifer, she was already a real estate agent for a couple of years. She was already in a brokerage. And so we became like the Rivera team,
Mhm.
right? So what we focused on is communication and getting our name out there. So we answered every phone call, every text, every email, and held on to it until it got to a point where they just did not want to buy a house or they didn't want to rent something. We kept after it in a very polite, respectful way. We weren't coming at them like a herd of buffalo or anything like that. We're just like, hey, we're here to help. If this is what you want, we could definitely help you. So it was, for me, it was a pretty easy, seamless transition. I went from corporate Pentagon military atmosphere and then out onto your own, going, meeting clients, making the arrangements for them and showing them and just being very, very knowledgeable of those type of things of real estate. I don't know what, I think a little music came on, but so I think what we focused on the most was customer service. How can I help you? How can I help you? How can I help you?
Let's talk about, so what were the things that you were doing when you hit the street? All right, how am I going to start getting leads? Like, I know your wife is a very successful realtor, so it's
Yeah,
definitely helpful joining her team, but
yeah, it
she had to
was.
start somewhere too. So what were some of the things that either she would do or that you started incorporating? So I'm brand new. How am I
Yeah,
getting leads?
I think this is what sticks with me. What she did, and then a lot of people contacted her is that writing reviews on houses that she's seen.
Really?
So you get a client and they want to see 5 or 6 houses,
Okay.
and you take them, you show it to them, and you walk through it, and you're taking mental notes. You're jotting down notes of what you see. How does the house feel? How's it smell? Is it organized? Is it compartmentalized? Is it open floor plan? What's the neighborhood around it? And she would comment on, truly, hey, I just walked through this house and it's lovely. It's on the small side. I think it's for a family of 3 or 4, maybe not 5 or 6. And she would comment on it. And then somebody would say, hey, I saw your comments on that house. Can you tell me more? And they're like, yeah, I can tell you definitely more. And how about I take you out there and go show it to you, and I'll show you a couple other houses while we're out there.
So
I
it's
think,
almost like guerrilla marketing right off the bat. Like, if you don't have a huge database of people, you didn't grow up in Northern Virginia, like both you and I'm from Washington State. You're from California. So
mhm.
where's Jennifer from?
She's a little bit around. She's from New Jersey. She grew
Okay.
start, she born and raised in New Jersey, and then her family moved down to Florida around the Tampa Bay area.
Same
And
thing,
then
but not a database of high school buddies that you had
no,
fifty friends
no,
here or anything like that. So it's really a different take on using that. So smart. So then she's starting to get some activity. Now let's talk
right.
about kind of when you come into the picture now. Jennifer's a little more established at this point. What are some of the first things you're doing?
Well, one, we Jennifer and I are defining our roles.
Okay.
You're
Good.
doing this and I'm doing that, because and it really helps again with communication. So Jennifer, it would be like the one, if you received an email, it's from Jennifer. If you receive a phone call and a text, it's from me. So we don't have a lot of overlap with communicating. And then our roles, I'm the one, I show the house. I do all the inspections. I talk to the client, kind of figure out what they're looking for. Jennifer's on the back end. She's writing contracts. She's researching other houses that are similar. She's doing the market analysis, making sure that the house is priced right. She's doing a lot of the back end paperwork. So we define the roles was number one. So, and then once we defined the roles of who's doing what for our little business here, it was easy. As long as I'm opening the doors, I'm fine. Once I start writing contracts, I'm treading on what she's doing, and it can be like, did you do this? Did you do that? So defining roles, it was super important.
Now, when you had that conversation about what the roles are going to be, has that shifted a lot any over the years, or is that basically what you laid out in the beginning, and that's basically how it's gone?
We definitely evolved. So we started off as a team, and then we moved on into open our own brokerage.
Right.
And so as Jennifer is the broker, I am her trustee agent, and then we have a few other agents that work with us.
Mhm.
So her role expanded, not only being my perfect assistant, is that she also stepped into the role of brokerage and managing and working with the other agents. And then what I do is I help the other agents come on board with new agents. So we do a lot what we call right seat rides. They join me on the interviews for listing presentations. They join me showing houses. They sit in on conversations, whether it's through a conference call or an email, or I'm sorry, not an email, a text chain, including them on there. And I kind of help them kind of really understand how we want to operate.
So would you say it sounds like one of the bigger things, if I'm a brand new agent and I'm at XYZ Realty, you need to find somebody that you can partner with to, in the beginning at least, that you are going to feel comfortable with, that will mentor you,
Hmm.
take you under their wing and help you go get through, your
Uh,
first however many deals.
yeah, definitely. I definitely would recommend that you find that person that you click with,
Right.
your office buddy. I think that's really important. I mean, I'm not saying that you couldn't do it as a standalone. It just would be a lot tougher because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. That's for sure. So tell me about your first sale, the first one that you had under the cap. What was that like? Tell me
Uh,
purchase,
I
what was
saw, I thought about that. I'm like, I couldn't tell you exactly what was my first deal. It was probably uneventful, and we put a lot of effort into making things smooth. Like our biggest compliment, I feel, is like, wow, this was a lot easier than I thought it was.
right.
And my response is like, thank you. That was completely deliberate. It was, I meant that's the way we want them to go. A happy client, happy, even if we represent the buyer, that the seller feels that they were treated fairly by us. Did the seller's agent get treated fairly by us? We want everybody to feel good about walking away from a transaction. I'm not going to say that happens 100% of the time. It happens, right? You can't predict really difficult situations, and some of them didn't have really great resolutions. But I would say probably my first deal was uneventful because I worked so hard on making it right.
Right. And it just kind of it went smooth. It happened. It was done. And like, wow,
It
okay.
just, and to be honest, and it probably at that time you're still juggling like 15, 20 other people somewhere in the process of buying or selling, under a contract, sending offers, initial hellos, a lot going on. Good organization will help you make smooth transactions.
Yep. Well, so what are some of the practices that you used in your first year that you still use today?
Well, one thing, I have a notebook. I write down notes,
Okay.
and I take down notes, and I always did that in the military. At all my meetings, or my thoughts, or things to do, things not to do, things that I heard, memorable quotes that touched me, affected me. I think that type of small notebook I can turn to is something I've carried all the way through my professional careers, both military and dealing or as a realtor. Um, Keeping the calendar, some of that stuff I'm kind of repeating, but it is also listening. I'm become a much better listener. Sometimes folks are like, are you still there? I'm like, absolutely, ma'am. I'm still there. I'm just listening.
Right.
I'm taking down notes. I want to make sure that I'm following your intent, not mine.
Yes. And that's a really good point, is to listen to what the client is saying. I vividly remember sitting at a table once. This is back when you'd meet the client in person, you'd bring in the loan officer, and the loan officer sits there
Hmm.
and The client was military. The clients were military family. They were looking to purchase their first house. This is 2005, somewhere in that ballpark. And they had been on base housing over and over and over. So they were really excited
Mhm.
to purchase their first house, the picket fence, the whole deal. And their agent, he kept going back to getting them in a townhouse. And
Mhm.
looking back, it was because he was in a townhouse. He thought they should buy a townhouse. And I kept hearing what they were saying and kept
Mhm.
hearing what he would then respond to what they were saying, and that they ended up not using that person. And it wasn't too surprising why, because they had a difference of vision of what they were trying to purchase and what he was basically trying to sell them on. So it sounds like the listening portion that goes back to the communication that we talked about, of you being able to communicate to the client how we're going to get to the closing table, how we're going to find the perfect house for you, and then also listening to what they want.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. And what happens when you're having kind of conflicting information from the client? So husband
Mm.
and wife aren't on the same page. How do you deal with that?
Stop right there and then and getting like, okay. And there's different examples. Like one, you sit down with the client and we want a single family home. We want a single family home. I'm like, great, let's look at single family homes. And then they start sending me listings of townhouses.
Mhm.
I'm like, wh- what has changed? And which is fine. I just want to make sure I'm following the right lead and not going down the single family house when they've changed. So stopping and asking the questions, hey, what changed? How best I can help you with this now? And then I definitely have had the situation where we feel that we find the right house and we go back for a second look, and before we have the second look, like, yeah, I think we're going to put an offer in. The client goes, we're going to put an offer. I'm like, great. We'll take a second look, confirm, deny what we believe to be true. And then we get out there. I'm like, okay, great. So let's go over some of the parts of the contract that we need to fill in. And one person is like still on board 100%. And then you look over at their partner and they're like, right? Like, I don't know. And but the other person is like, no, let's put an offer in. I'm like, we're not going to put an offer in. I need both. I need everybody on the same sheet of music. Otherwise, it's just going to unravel later.
And that's a really good point and I'm sure you've seen it before. Maybe you people make the mistake early in their career. Maybe you made it. I'm sure everybody does at some point, where the one person is really pressing, the more, I guess I would say, aggressive person is saying, I want to
Hmm.
write an offer. And you go, okay, well, they're the client. Let's make it happen. And then the other person that was kind of dragging their feet is going to be the one that derails it with the home inspection or whatever the case is going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
So for the new agent out there, that's a red flag. You need to be
Oh,
paying attention for that.
yeah, I think that's super important. That red flag, like, you just said a red flag. I see a red flag. You got to be really aware of what's being said and what they're doing, how they're acting, body language. You got to be really in tune to your client, because they could be saying one thing, but you could see their facial expression is like, ew, eek, that's not so great. Kind of hear the
Yeah.
whispering and stuff. I do like to give my clients room as they explore a house, but I'm definitely watching and I'm trying to also identify, like, who's the leader of the two? Is it equal or is there a leader? And I gotta say, I follow the leader a little bit more because that's a decision maker.
Right.
And everybody has a role. Sometimes they are not a leader, sometimes they're the follower. And it's the same in all relationships. But I try to find out who it is, and then, and also try to really bring in the other person. If, let's say, they're really quiet about it, I quickly, how do you feel about this? Are you okay with this? How do you feel? How do you see it? And try to get that information from them too, because I like everybody on board. I like everybody on the same sheet of music. It, it goes to making a smooth transaction.
That's right. And makes sense completely. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about kind of hitting your stride. So you made it through your first year, and then you started really making some money and being a producing real estate agent as part of the team, and then opening the brokerage. Carlos is going to talk a little bit about what it was like after his first year, opening the brokerage and all that good stuff. So Carlos, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So I'm sitting with Carlos Rivera, co-owner of Blue and Gray Realty in Fredericksburg. And so, Carlos, we just got done kind of going over your first year in the business. So tell me, let's talk a little about, you've now passed your first year. You're starting to
Mhm.
really produce as a realtor. So let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me about your growth after your first year.
Well, I think the first year we did probably like 30 houses.
Okay.
The second year we jumped to like 40. And then ever since then, we've been averaging around 55 to 65 houses a year, which is, that's full time. That's a
Right.
lot of work,
Yep.
right? That's vacations with laptops and cell phones. We're trying to enjoy, have good family time, but at the same time, keep everything running. The one thing I think we did not do well, and I wish I would have started sooner once we started to really pick up steam, was get a good accountant and a good way to manage money, because now as you grow, taxes are going to become more and more a bigger deal. It's not the old, I work at a grocery store and it's just me. Now we have business and business expenses, and we're putting a tremendous amount of miles on our vehicles. I wish I would have done that better sooner, and
So
we're
it's
catching up for it, and we're also paying for that at the same time.
Makes sense. So
But
I definitely take that away from being a business owner myself, and then also speaking recently with Chris Ognick with Q Real Estate, and that was one
oh
thing he
yeah,
really stressed is the P&L of and bringing in the accountants. So let's talk about a team a little bit. So I know you have a team in place for your lender. I'm over here.
yes, yeah, definitely.
And you're kind of your home inspector and everything like that. So how do you go about putting a team together? What are some of the things new agents should be looking for?
Personality. Can I communicate with this person, and how does he treat my clients? We definitely don't want somebody to scare somebody away. There's definitely a way they can deliver bad news effectively and without blowing up a deal. We definitely don't want that. So I got to say, with lenders, it is about being honest, being transparent, accountable, and accessible. Nobody wants to feel like they're a file. So I really enjoy working with you, Tanner, and some of the other lenders that we work with. And I tell a lot of folks that, hey, the reason why we recommending this person, this lender, is honestly, you only get one strike, and they haven't striked out yet. They've performed. They've helped bridge difficult gaps, and we've helped celebrate great victories together.
Yep.
So personality is a big deal,
And
especially
let me touch on that for a
Oh,
second.
sure, go ahead.
So I feel in my experience that not every client will be perfect for every loan officer, just
That's
like
true.
not every client will be perfect for every realtor. So do you feel, is that something that really should be looked at by an agent, that when you do have, hey, this is my person I go to for this, is that
Hmm.
they take into account the personalities of the two people?
We definitely do. So when we take in a new client, and we speak to them over the phone, we meet to them face to face, we show them some houses. We have to have a profile of that type person. Is this somebody who's complicated? I have a lot of or difficult deals. Now, all our lenders are great, and they probably can do the job just the same as somebody else can, but we want them to everybody to feel comfortable. Like for you, like you're a VA guy. VA loans inside and out doesn't mean you can't do conventional or FHA or other products that are out there. You could certainly do those, but we like to direct our military folks to you because we click,
Mhm.
right? Just as much as if I was a police officer or a medical service or an engineer or a lawyer, you gravitate. And if I can send a veteran to another veteran, there's some natural gravitation there that takes place. There's some storytelling, there's some good humor, picking on each other. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and now Space Command. I'm looking forward to picking on those guys.
That's right. That's right.
So we definitely communication, listening, kind of figuring out who they are and kind of matching the best we can.
Yep. Well, you shared something with me. We're going to jump off topic for a moment. As I shared with you, my stepdaughter just completed her 5th jump at Jump School Fort Benning in Georgia. My wife is out there right now,
Awesome.
is there to
Awesome.
celebrate. So tell us about your first jump. Tell us about what that experience was like, because you just shared that you are
Oh my
jump
goodness.
qual.
You really want to hear this
I
one?
want to hear it. Let's do it.
Okay.
So on a
All right.
scale of 1 to 10, how scared were you?
I wasn't scared.
What?
I was the second person in the door. So there was a person in front of me. I was just really amazed of looking out the window at the door, how slow the earth was moving. And
Okay.
in my head, I'm thinking, how fast are we going?
Okay.
Like, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, fast enough to keep the big airplane in the
Right. You're
air.
like, that looks like 5 miles an hour, just kind of a
Yeah.
stroll.
I think there was a little bit of like things were not connecting, which kept me in the dark about what was about to happen to me as I ejected that plane. So it's kind of like, I was like, more like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then all of a sudden you hear go, go, go. And before you're like out, I'm like, oh, I better, tighten up and better get ready for the impact. And so my chute opens and it wasn't tangled up or anything. I didn't have to twist it around.
Thank
And
goodness.
I was like, when is the ground going to start looking like it's coming super fast? And that was something else that kind of threw me off, is like, wow, I'm just like hanging out here, but no, I'm not. I'm coming close to the earth rapidly.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the last couple seconds, that was fast. And I hit like a sack of potatoes. And as you're coming down, you could hear the black hat screaming at you to get ready, to get ready, to get ready. So I hit the ground and boom, and it just like a great right on my side, just thump, really hard. And I just laid there kind of stunned. I was like, holy mackerel. And then I happened to land next to a black hat, which those are the instructors, and they have a bullhorn. And from around 3 feet away, he starts screaming at me through his bullhorn to release my chute because I'm about to get dragged and to get up, get off the airfield and move the hell out. And good Army fun experience. I could say that out of my 5 jumps, only 1 was comfortable. The rest of them were all painful landings.
So it's the landing. It's not the fear of getting out of the plane. It was the impact at the bottom.
Yeah, it's the impact. And that's exactly what it was.
Well, outstanding. All right. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about lead generation. And I'd kind of like to go over a little bit more about you working with your spouse. So we'll be right back with Carlos Rivera with Blue and Gray Realty.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, welcome back. So, Carlos, we're going to talk a little bit about the database and how important that is to stay in front of your past clients, and then kind of some of the stuff you guys are doing right now on a consistent basis that you think every agent should be using if they're not. So let me start you off with that then. So, what's a product or service that you guys are using every single day?
Well, Excel. I love Excel, not only for names and dates and addresses, but also the numbers and number crunching and organization. Really use that tool a lot.
Okay.
That's a carryover from the military too. And then my Microsoft Office, that's Excel being a product of it, but also using Outlook, using PowerPoint, using those products, those systems to help not only organize myself, but help organize my like presentations and put some numbers down, some facts and figures. Some people like it, some people don't. You gotta know who your client are. Some of them are very verbal, and some of them are very picture oriented. And then there's the typical real estate software using a multiple listing service, using zip forms for our forms, using DocuSign for using signatures. We try to be very efficient. You definitely got to master those tools. And then on top of that, everybody has a critical task you got to do well. And we haven't really spoken too much about it, but that's doing market analysis. You got to know the value of a house. You got to be able to figure that out.
So if you're a brand new agent, that kind of sounds like that goes back to, you better be pairing with somebody who is going to be able to show you that versus you kind of struggling through it yourself. I mean,
right,
it's going to save you hours and days.
Oh yeah, because you got to be able to pick the right houses. And I do recommend, continuing education. Get with an appraiser, make friends with an appraiser. That's part of also our team. It's not just title companies, lenders, and home inspectors, but appraisers. Hey, asking them, confirm or deny that does this impact appraisal value type of things.
Yeah.
Because appraisers could be very different. So knowing critical tasks, knowing what those are, and being very efficient at it, whether it's in a program or, like I say, market analysis. They're relying on you to know how much a house is worth,
Yep.
or farm, or small business, or what's the value of water access, or difference from water view,
Okay.
things like that.
So I'm your client, and we've just started working together, and I'm kind of giving you that, well, we're thinking spring, summer timeframe, we're going to be looking for a house. How often are you in front of me? Weekly? Every a couple weeks? What's
Probably every couple weeks, just keeping tabs, because we're looking at the calendar and how long does it take to settle, how long does it take to search, how long does it take to negotiate, how long does it take for them to get ready financially, do they have a house they need to prepare to sell, or end of a lease. So we kind of backward plan, and then we see where I am or the current date to when a good starting point would be. And then we'll do a bit of like a little trickle, a little hello, hey, how you doing? Have you seen anything out there? We do want to get listings out in front of them as soon as possible, something that they're looking at so they can keep an eye on the market, keep the eye on what's available. But as we approach, let's say if they have a house to sell, you're like, hey, can we, love to get in there and take a look, help guide you. Hey, this is important. That's not so important. This is capital investment. That's not capital investment. This is how an appraiser is going to see it. This is not how an appraiser is going to see it. Really bringing the experience of selling 550 houses in a little bit more than 10 years experience to their table and into their living rooms. So little trickle. And then once we get into those windows of selling a house or financing, that's when we really start to monitor really closely what's going on. Are they getting their documents in? How's the lender seeing it? Maybe they're changing the type of loan they're going to get because of the situation. There's dozens of things that are happening simultaneously, but
it's a moving transaction, that's for sure.
And it evolves, it changes directions. Sometimes it abruptly ends. It does happen.
I've had the ones where they've changed jobs after we've gotten the clear to close, which that creates a little bit of a panic for sure, because they're going to verify your employment at the end. And if they call and they say, hey, is so and so there, and they're like, who? That's a problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're gone. We've definitely been at that same table where, like, hey, I know you signed today, but you failed to mention that you changed your job. Luckily, it was a job in the same field, the same amount of money, but it was the exception, not the rule. It was definitely some scariness going on there.
Okay, so let's talk about, I'm now a past client of yours. And what are some of the things you're going to be doing to stay in front of me so that in 3 years that I call you, you're the only agents I think of, and I'm going to be reaching back out to you guys when we start the process of the sale?
No, we definitely are tracking that. So when you close on the house, are like, okay, is this a family that's going to be picking up in 3 years and moving? Are they going to be a growing family? They started off with one kid, but they mentioned like, oh, we want a big family, but the house they just bought is on the smaller side. So we kind of put them on the long planner, the immediate 3-year, 5-year plan. And we're definitely taking a look. So
does that include like phone calls to the past client, or what do you have a way that you're touching base, a program you use? What do you guys focus on?
I'm sure there's lots of programs out there. I don't know what they are.
Okay.
So we use email. We like more of a personal touch. We want handwritten cards. We don't want it to look like some factory made mail that gets tossed away. We wanted to make it look like you're about to get a Christmas card from somebody, and like, oh, who's this? Cool. And so they open it and like, hey, we know we were just thinking about you in the holidays. Please keep us in mind. We're here to help. If you need market analysis on to see if the value of your home has gone up or down, we'd be more than happy to provide that to you very specifically. On our of the clients that we sell houses in that year, let's say 2020, at the end of 2020, we're going to go back and send them their CD, make sure they have a fresh copy in their hand. It wasn't packed up, wasn't destroyed.
Let's talk about that for a reason. Why is
sure.
that important for the client?
Taxes.
Yep.
Taxes. Can't avoid it. There's a lot of good write-offs in there. I recommend everybody get an accountant, or have an accountant as a friend. Can I write this off? Can I write that off? That's very important. Luckily, a lot of the programs like TurboTax, they prompt you to ask questions, but we're there to prompt too. Like, hey, don't forget you bought a house and it's beautiful, and I'm sure you guys love it, but there's some tax write-offs to it.
That's right. And well, that's a really easy touch point, because a lot about the marketing that I try to do is touch points with past clients. How are you going to stay in front of people? And
Right.
I've gotten better on making the phone calls to past clients where I'm not trying to sell you a mortgage. I'm just giving you a quick call to see, hey, what's going on? And honestly, if I call 10 people, I'm going to get 6 voicemails, but the 4 people I talk to, the conversation's going to go good. And just that gives me a chance to then, if they ask, well, do you know anybody for carpet, then I can give them my carpet guy.
Yeah, definitely.
And one thing I've been running into recently that's been helpful. So I've had past clients that are just had babies. So, or about to have babies. So I've been sending out just a care package on Amazon or whatever baby website that my marketing person has found. $50 goes out the door to them. And it's a really nice way that they go, what, this guy didn't have to, and he did send us something. And that's been very beneficial so far. So I've picked up business.
Yeah. We definitely reward, especially referrals. If somebody refers us to somebody and they buy or sell a house, they're definitely going to get a nice edible arrangement or some great Omaha steaks from us. They're going to definitely get a nice little treat. We had this one office that we were crushing it in there for a long time, that we probably sold at 5 or 6 houses in just this one little office area. So we started sending stuff to the office. Like, you guys are all great. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're helping us make our business grow. And here's some excellent chocolate strawberries, something like that.
Yep.
Super appreciative. And if they have family, we have a little bit more family oriented. If it's just a couple, maybe it's more of a date night type of gift. We try to share our knowledge with them at the same time. Like, hey, market's hot. You think about selling?
Right. And that's a very important point, though, as you go along in the business, whether it's as a loan officer or a real estate agent, you have these people that are referring business, and they took the time to recommend you. And a direct referral, that's as close as we get to a slam dunk in our jobs. I find.
Yeah.
So to the agents that are listening out there, the new agents, you need to make sure that you're acknowledging the person that sent you the deal. And a follow-up gift certainly doesn't hurt anything, but it's just a way to say thank you, because they didn't have to do it, and then they took the time to do it. Before I forget, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about working with your spouse. And earlier on, you laid down that you both kind of set clear expectations. What has been the secrets of your longevity, and where do you see others fail?
I don't know about, honestly, I don't know about other couples who just couldn't work it out. I mean, I definitely met couples where like, there's absolutely no way I'm ever going to work with my spouse. I've definitely met those folks. For us, I think it's just the give and take, me giving maybe a lot, which is okay. I'm here to work together, not to always be fighting.
Right.
About what's right and what's wrong. I'm willing to concede a little bit. You got to have that elasticity to your relationship. You can't make it so rigid that it's just going to break and fail, because for us, it's going to break and fail so many places, not only with our family life, but our professional life. We don't too much to risk.
Yeah.
So we sit across from each other. Sometimes I move my desk into the other room. Why'd you move over there? I'm like, because I want to.
Just need a little space.
Need a little space right now.
Yeah.
Then she says, get back over here. And we talk it out. And we'll sit down and like, all right, let's say we're on two opposite ends of the stick here on an issue. We will both research it out and we'll both talk it out and like, okay, what's best for the client.
Is that where the disagreements come in? And it's not so much the working with your spouse. It's more like, all right, we see a client differently. Is that what you run into, that where you have disagreements?
Sometimes. Well, I mean, I gotta say, with so many transactions behind us, we've gotten into our groove, right? Like, okay, let's say a client is not happy. I'm going to be the one to talk to them and talk it out, right?
Okay.
If it comes to like a policies and type of procedure type of issue, Jennifer we'll figure it out. I'll provide input. We got to come up to the decision. We got to do it quickly, and then we will present it to the client, and we'll kind of figure out who's the best person to say it. Is it better that I say it? Is it better than she said? You can't stress enough, and we probably did it about 5 or 6 times. Communication with your clients, with the people you work with, and especially your partner agent, because you don't want to try to relax with an issue. You want to try to resolve them as quickly as possible, or at least agree to set it aside and address it in another day or two, or whenever.
Don't magically go away is what you're saying.
Yeah, it doesn't magically go away. You got to deal with it sooner or later. So it's best sometimes to let it cool. But hey, she hasn't killed me yet, so I'm still here. So I guess I'm doing something right.
There you go.
You know, and I definitely met other couples, great couples that work together, and I've also met couples who started working together. And it was the ones that the other couples, they already been around for 10, 15, 20 years working together. So they didn't share anything with me, but on how to do it. They didn't say too much. But we did an agent that we worked a lot with, and his wife was about to leave her government job, a lot of security. And we ran into him at a little breakfast place. That's one thing we get to do a lot together, is we had a lot of FaceTime, husband and wife. We go out and eat meals and talk about work, like especially breakfast. I don't like cleaning up after breakfast. So we saw them and they mentioned like, oh, she's going to join me. I'm like, hey, great. The first thing out of my mouth, define what you are going to do, and do not cross over. Do not duplicate. Do not duplicate efforts. You know, one person does it and they always do it. One person does this and they always do it. Because once you have a duplication of effort, that's where I did it this way and I did it that way. And it's a train wreck.
Yep. Makes sense. So as we're wrapping up the podcast here, what's next for Blue and Gray?
I think we're trying to diversify a little bit. Okay. Right now, we're pretty much strictly just buying and selling houses. We do a little bit of rentals, leasing, and working with folks who are looking for rentals. We did our first flip. Nice. Very happy about that. We found a great opportunity. We rehabbed it and sold it, and it worked out. Didn't lose my shirt. Didn't blow up in my face. Now, I got to say, I think Jennifer and I are smart enough on how to get out of a mess and not lose money. I think we know when red flags, be very aware of those type of things. So we're looking to do a little bit more of the home rehab. We are also definitely wanting to hold on to properties as rental. And we're very, very interested in Airbnbs.
Nice. Okay.
In key locations where I can visit them too.
Yeah, the beach spots, stuff like that.
Yeah, beach, maybe on a canal, bring my boat down there, my little rowboat, or maybe it's up in the mountains. We've definitely come across clients, so they're doing it. I'm like, man, they could do it. I know I could do it. I have all the tools. I have the contractors. I got the lenders. I got the title companies. I know the market. What's stopping me from stepping out and diversifying my real estate portfolio? And that's something that we really, really want to do in the next, well, starting right now, to be honest, starting right now and really start to build the next 3 to 5 years
Yep.
to a point where we can really supplement our income, where we're not doing so much buys and sells. We're referring a little bit more business to our other agents. We're doing our own flips. We're managing our own rentals and getting into all of it. Yeah.
So as we wrap this up, give me your 30-second to a minute presentation on, if I'm a new agent listening to this podcast and I'm not getting the support that I would hope for at whatever spot I joined, why do I come over to Blue and Gray?
We're small. I mean, we're less than a dozen people in our office. So if there's certain people that want to be part of a big group, and I get that. They have big meetings and they have big powwows and they come together, they celebrate a lot, and I'm all for that. But I'm also I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I wouldn't participate in those type of things. If you want a small boutique type real estate where we earn our money here, we spend our money here, we don't owe anybody anything. We can make our own decisions. You want to make your own decisions, you come work with us. You don't need to ask. You want to change something, as long as it's within the guidelines of right and wrong, of course. And we don't want to do anything illegal. We give you like a lot of freedom to do that. And we have one-on-one mentorship, not group mentorship. So like I mentioned it before, we do the right seat right. You're going to come with me. We're going to hang out. We're going to go Starbucks, not Starbucks, Wawa. I love Wawa. Get some gas, make sure the car is ready to go, get some coffee, talk about what I know about the client, share it in how I approach it. You're going to get a lot of great one-on-one. Jennifer is the master of research and filling out paperwork. You can sit next to her every day if you want, and we'll go through our transactions and how we're doing it, how we're managing it, and help them build their business. Like, hey, you want to focus in a particular county? We'll help you. Let's go help you find ad space and get your name out there. And if I get somebody in that area, I'll let you take the lead and I'll help you, and really start to help them build on their own without being a part of a big team.
And that makes all the difference in the world to me. And obviously Bayfield Home Loans, we are a smaller company as well, a similar size staff. And I think that really separates us as well. You can go to a big bank, you can go to a big shop, but if you want to get the hands-on support to make it work and have a career, then you need somebody who's going to give you the ride on the right side, so we can see how we actually help a client from start to finish, and have you as a mentor, and your wife and the team that you have. So I'm so blessed and lucky to work with you guys, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. And how about some closing thoughts? What do you got left?
Well, I appreciate working with you, Tanner. You're very professional. You definitely know what you're doing, and we don't question that a bit. So I definitely love working with you. Really do. Tidbit about the real estate market. It is a moving beast, and look at the difference between 2019 and 2020. I thought 2020 we were doomed. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to probably think about another option for work. And it was one of our most successful years, and it's carrying over into 21. But as we were riding high, you kind of have to like, well, how long can we ride this high?
Yep.
And when does it turn, and how to look at it? So we're definitely starting to see a little bit of a turn. And how do you adjust yourself to that market? So we're gearing ourselves up for, unfortunately, short sales. So we have a good short sale negotiator. We're looking at possibility of a lot of houses hitting on the market, either through rental properties becoming available or foreclosures. Terrible, but that's the market. It ebbs and flows and it changes, and you got to stay on top of it. You got to really pay attention to what's going on so you can help your clients.
And that's one thing with longevity that you guys have, is that you've seen that before. And
right,
we've been through it, and it sucks. But I think that the big takeaway from what you just said to me is that the market is going to be changing, and you're going to need what you did last year may not be effective this year, but the principles of the basics are going to be there regardless. So
Yep, you're
that's
absolutely
the
right.
biggest thing that for an agent that's listening to this podcast is be prepared for the changes, do the basics, and that's how you're going to be successful. So Carlos, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. It was a pleasure having you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Great. Thank you very much. It was
All right,
awesome.
sir. Thanks,
All right.
Carlos.
All right.
Have a good
Bye.
day.